Are you going to ask the questions that I sent you, or are you going to ad lib?
We're live.
Oh,
Hi everyone, my name is Farhana and this is Bryan Boutique Elite. And today I have our special guest, Karl Bryan. He is an amazing business coach, two business coaches. He has the number one magazine for business coaches, the number one podcast for business coaches, the number one list of business coaches out there, and he's the creator of the number one acceleration software for business coaches. So many of my clients and many of people in my community are business coaches. So you're in for a special treat today. Karl will share some of his tips that he gives to his clients. So we met in, was it January?
come on. Yeah, well, I think we might have met the year prior, but we were chatted lots on the last January cruise,
Yes.
which luckily
So
we
we
got
met.
off of the cruise before the COVID hit. Otherwise, we might still be there, hanging out in the ocean.
Imagine that would have been terrible if we got stuck on a boat for like a month. I
Yeah.
couldn't live in a tiny cabin for this long.
No, me neither. Oh God, get me off the thing.
Yeah, I would have jumped off and swim ashore.
I can picture you diving off the ninth floor. Bye guys, I'm out of
Yeah,
here. I'm swimming home.
I can't do this. I'm over it. So tell us a little bit about how you got started. You sharing that at age 21, a small business um, president in Australia, taking the award. So you've been doing this for some time now.
Yeah, I think kind of get a hockey background, so I think you'll find that business coaching and hockey coaching and playing hockey, a lot of parallels there between sport and business. I think that's pretty obvious. But I kind of just once I got into business coaching, I literally remember the words like the first time that I ever heard the word business and coaching in the same sentence, and I from that moment I really in my own head I have done nothing else but that. But really, I just got a little bit of a flare up. As the guy that at the age of 14, instead of, going applying for a job, I was, pushing a lawnmower and started the window washing business and then hiring a few of my buds. Uh, you know what I mean? So I kind of got started as an entrepreneur, and you just mentioned I got sponsored at the age of 21 by the president of National Small Business Australia, which on the surface that can sound reasonably impressive, possibly, but it's not. It's me shining a guy's shoes and carrying his bags around. But basically, yeah, I just kind of got started at it. I had a flair for it, and I've been doing that ever since. Well and truly, I don't even know how many years. A decade and a half easily, possibly longer. And for the next decade and a half, I'm not going to change my mind and go into something different. This is just, it's part of me. It's what I do. So, yeah, I kind of got started and never stopped.
So you talk about the parallel with hockey, and when I speak on stages, I usually give this parallel of running marathons.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm not like a super athlete, but it's really like when you are training for something and you have a goal, there's so many parallels of creating your plan and getting the coaching that you need. So tell us a little bit about like how you equate hockey and business coaching.
Yeah, it's all psychology. Like the parallels are incredible, which is where the deep breath comes from. At the end of the day, it's you think what do they say that I think it's Mike Tyson who said everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? It's like you start a hockey game, you've got a game plan, but all of a sudden you know what I mean. You're in transition the entire time, and then I believe that the ultimate skill in business is being able to see the entire playing field. And really, if you take the best hockey players with the average hockey players, you'll see that they see the playing field at a higher level. Um, so yeah, that you know what I mean. That's kind of the ultimate skill in hockey, and I would say that's the ultimate skill in business. And when we're recording this, it's COVID season right now. So if ever there was a time where you need to be able to see the entire playing field, I believe that it's now. So I would say that, and then of course the competitive nature of it. That it's it's rock and roll time once they drop that puck. Well, in business, it's the same thing, and it's dog eat dog, and you'd be kidding yourself to think that it's anything but. You know what I mean? Like you build a great thriving business, you can expect that other people will be lining up to basically do the exact same thing. So yeah, I think the parallels are incredible, but I say the ultimate skill is the being able to see the entire playing field, and I would see that there. In fact, you want me to give you an example right now? In fact, I'm writing an email. I do a daily email, and I'm writing about this right now, where like Apple is doing, uh, a stock split, and effectively, if you really look at it from the entire playing field, I really believe that the way that Apple is priced right now, which is $400 a share, they're basically designed for the savvy investor, the institutional investor, and there have been more accounts set up for stock traders than ever be. Like every month, there's more people signing up for accounts than they did last year, right? So in 30 days time, more than last year, and they've done that in consecutive months. Well, what does that tell you when you see the entire playing field is there's more amateurs entering than ever before. And when Apple is priced for the institutional investor, they're not going to get a piece of that pie. They want a piece of the pie because you don't want to have, if you have $1,000 to spend and you could only own 2 shares, it's incredibly lame. It's just psychology. So when I see the entire playing field, a lot of folks are getting excited, but I believe for the wrong reasons. And the reason that it's happening is they're trying to get a piece of that pie. So anyway, so the entire playing field, Farhana. I hope that's the answer. That's the answer that I give you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm having echo on the live, I'm being told. So I'm going to grab some headphones. So share some of the mistakes that you see when people come to you and they're like, okay, we need help. We can't grow our business. What are some of the big mistakes that you see?
The big mistakes that I see. Okay, number one, the language of business. The language of business is accounting. And if you give me a room of 100 people and I say, what is the language of business? Let's say there's 100 people in the room, 80 hands just went up for marketing, and that would be the wrong answer. So not only is it the language of business, and this isn't my advice, this is Warren Buffett and some of the greats, Ray Dalio's, the greats of the greats, the billionaires of the world. Um, so I not only people not like they're scared of their numbers, and this is something you really gotta buy into. I would also say this that they think that they own a business, but they really own a promotion. An example that I would give is if you go look at the number of people selling purebred dogs, it's monstrous. There's a huge amount, but you see, I would give you the dog for free to sell you the dog food. A dog food is a business and one that you can derive value, and value isn't good. I charge you $20 and it was really worth 40. I don't mean value like that. I mean value that you can sell. Ultimately, a business selling dog food could actually sell for many millions of dollars one day. Or, I'd give you the coffee machine to sell you the coffee, right? A flagship client one time where they built swimming pools. And I said to them, do you sell the chemicals? Do you open and close the pools? Are you servicing the pool? And the answer was no, no, and no. They wanted nothing to do with it, but they were building, pretty expensive pools. At that stage, it was like, call it $50,000 pools. So they were looking for the big checks, but not realizing he had a promotion. He didn't have a business. So I would say that folks don't really understand it. I think that people are totally obsessed with marketing and lead generation, when in actuality they should be obsessed with building the most value and the best product possible. Um, and lastly, Farhana, what would I say? That what people are doing is they're looking for ideas. And in actuality, what they should be doing is looking for problems, right? So if I had $1 for every time somebody came up to me and said, is this an idea? Will this idea work? Idea, idea, idea. Just totally, you got to take your spidey senses and you have to completely change the direction of them, and you got to start looking for problems. The bigger the problem and the more people that have the problem, the easier it is to market, and the bigger your company is going to have the capacity to grow. So I would say that for Hannah, and starting with, and it's really, and this is the boring one that nobody wants to hear, but what I started with is that accounting is the language of business, and people don't. It's not even they don't even understand it. When I say accounting, don't get intimidated by it. I use some big words and that sort of stuff. It's ultimately math, very straightforward stuff. So huge mistake is that. So that's what I would answer it.
Yeah, I'm still not going.
You what?
I'm
You're still
still,
getting an echo?
I'm still getting an echo even with my headphones on. So I guess that's how this party's going to be right now. Sorry for everyone listening in. That's kind
I
of
can't
echo.
hear, Farhana, it sounds fine to me. I think it's at your end.
Yeah, it's my end, but it's on live too.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah,
Oh, I gotcha. We're live. Okay.
yeah. But so the whole thing that you were sharing about people coming from a place of problems and like what problems themselves, that's like totally key. So whenever I'm telling my company are doing marketing, creating their marketing plan, I always talk about, okay, so what are the problems that you're solving? Like, what are the benefits that people are going to get? What solutions are you creating?
Yeah.
And then the value where people don't necessarily, I had an experience with a business and their systems were not in place. They seemed like they didn't, like initially I thought, okay, yeah, let me do business with them. And then they didn't have any of the things in place. And I was like, oh God, I'm regretting this decision to do business with you because it seems that you had this idea, but you didn't really plan out the customer experience. You didn't really bring value to the table at each stage of the process. And I think that's like a total missing. People will come up with all these great ideas, but they don't really fully hash it out.
Yeah, there's no question. I agree with you totally. That you really got to dial in the benefits, and I would totally agree with that. I'd go one step further though. Not only do you want to be able to take your offering and derive it down into benefits, which we all know, but the more defined. Look, you got to establish two things, in my opinion. If you and I are skiing or we go to a national park, there's always going to be a map there. Okay, we look at the map. The most important part of that map for you, for me, or anybody at the national park is the little red arrow. You are here. So you need to establish that. And then ultimately, and then what they also have to do is clearly define the outcome. And I think that this can sound some arbitrary or platitudinal, but I believe that when you can clearly define the outcome, very few business owners, I believe, take the time to step back, have a look at it, you know what I mean, and really define that outcome. That's a huge error in business for sure. So totally agree with what you're saying. I just take it, I'd include that in there also.
Yeah, I like to do goals with my clients. So they're like, okay, so I'm going to invest this much in marketing. And I say, yes. So, but how much is a client worth? And how many more clients do you want?
Yeah.
So if people think like, oh yeah, when I make the sales, I'll then do the work or get the coach or do the marketing. But it's like, you're not going to get the sale unless you do the marketing. So having those goals, like how many leads do you want? How many clients do you want? How many followers? How many people do you want to sign into your opt-in? So I kind of plan that all out with people because those are super important parts. Everyone's like, yeah, we just want to do social media marketing and get all these people. And it's like, well, what do you want them to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and you clearly define it. That's why they need to hire somebody like you to be able to help them go through that and just establish again the little red arrow. You are here, and then define that outcome, and the world becomes a much easier place once they do that. Farhana.
Yes, for sure. When you're working with your clients, how do you structure that out for them? Like, because you work with lots of coaches that are coaching other businesses. So how do you plan out you are here and their goals?
How do we do it? It's a Q&A process, and quite frankly, it normally the when you initially ask somebody, what, like as an example, you got to be able to identify the problem and again clearly define the problem. On average, when you ask somebody, look, can you please clearly define it? They're going to say, I suck at marketing. I'm no good at sales. You know what I mean? Like the economy, the COVID, whatever it is, they're never even close to the real problem. You know what I mean? And on average, I would find that where the problem lies is the chokehold on any business, yours, mine, Coke, Pepsi, you name it, is psychology, right? So again, just getting, moving them out of the way. Maybe a good example of that would be what I said earlier, where the language of business is accounting, but they're completely dialed in with the fact that, they're scared of numbers and accounting is something that freaks them out. And because they're so freaked out by it, they don't go there. Like if you look at the most successful businesses of all time, actually no, sorry, I'm going to go the most successful CEOs of all time. In fact, there's a book called Outsiders, and it's fabulous. And what you will find, like when most people think of the greatest CEOs of all time, Jack Welch is a name that will come up consistently. Well, when you actually look at the data and you actually look at the numbers, Jack Welch was pretty average in the grand scheme of things. And the people that were actually, the CEOs that really thrived and crushed it, are guys that you've never heard of. In fact, if you read the book, Warren Buffett will be the only person in there that you've actually heard of. So again, being super data driven. So when you ask me, establishing that little red arrow, you are here, it's normally it's a Q&A process, but quite frankly, I don't know that it's uncomfortable, but it's one that does not come naturally whatsoever. And then, establishing that outcome, again, normally what happens is I ask somebody, what are you looking to achieve? And they're going to tell me, oh, I want to make 100 grand. Oh, I want to work 2 days a week. And it's all me, 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 me. That's a horrific bigger picture. That's a horrific outcome. You always want to make the outcome around somebody else, right? Like, so, you always do more for others than you do for yourself. And then people wonder why they hit roadblocks and difficulty in their business and they capitulate or give up or, slow down versus speed up. And it's because they're fixated on themselves. You've really got to make that picture about, other people. So an example of that in my own world, like I created proprietary software where I created a process that I can find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. And then I took that process and I turned it into software. And what I'm trying to kind of explain, like that goal has got nothing to do with me. Finding them 100 grand without spending a dollar on marketing or advertising is totally to do with the person that I'm sitting with the business owner. So creating an outcome and creating that game plan around others will always get them further.
Yeah, so like how many more people you want to serve, what you can do for others.
Yep.
When especially during COVID, there was definitely problems and concerns that people had. And so I created a program that worked for what multiple people were telling me their problem and need was. I was like, okay, so how can I create something? Because my existing product, people were saying, okay, we love to work with you, but we can't make that investment right now because we're uncertain with times. And so I created a live group coaching session or strategy session that went along with my digital course so people could create their marketing, get some guidance with me, but that it wasn't like my one-on-one strategy session. And it all came out with how can I serve these people? Like I want to help people, but my solution that I currently have isn't working. They didn't want to just do my digital course because they wanted to spend time with me too and get my advice. So I created this other thing out of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So you're proof of concept right there. It works. Focus on them. I love it.
So tell us more about this, not even spending $1 and getting another 100,000 for your clients. Because I think everyone wants that.
Yep, it's a process. So I've got 800 licensees in 24 countries, and then it's a process and then software that I provide them and the process I created. You just sit down with the business owner. I'd like to say that it's super complicated. There's absolutely a process and there's a bit of math involved and there's a process somebody would need to learn. But let me give you an example. Okay, so the average business owner, let's say I meet somebody and they made 100 grand profit last year, and they have 20% margins. Okay, so I go rather than go. Actually, hey, let me just press pause for a minute. If you have a business owner and they have 25, let's just say 25% margins for the sake of the argument. If I earn them $1, I drive traffic, I build a landing page, we hire salespeople, we make $1, we make a sale, how much do they keep? And the answer is 25 cents, and then 75 went to expenses, right? Well, when you go to their credit card statements, you go to their expenses and you save them $1, the question is how much do they keep? And the answer is 100 cents on the dollar. So if I'm a business coach and say I'm 2 grand a month, 24 grand a year, and my goal, and I believe that their goal should be to make sure that they pay their way immediately, Well, where's a better place to go? Should I drive traffic and bring in sales to make 25 cents? Or should I go to their expenses, and should I go to their credit card statements and go to their, what they're spending money on, and negotiate some terms and help them with saving $1 when they can keep 100 cents? And hopefully the answer is painfully obvious, right? A good place to start is, the subtraction versus the addition. Well, okay, so back to my example of, how do I find 100 grand in 45 minutes without spending $1 in marketing or advertising? Well, if I sit with a business owner, they made 100 grand last year and they've got 20% margins, I go straight to their credit card statements, both straight to their expenses. And I got to tell you, the importance of what I'm describing is up there with returning the library book, right? Like they're not doing it. They're not spending any time on it. Well, if I increase their margins from 20 to 30%, on the surface, that's a 10% improvement. I just said a minute ago, they made 100 grand. That's $10,000, right? Not bad. It took me an hour to go through their credit card statements. Well, that's not what happened. You see, a big wealth hack is understanding percentages versus whole numbers. When you go from 20 to 30, that's not a 10% improvement. That's a 50% improvement. Okay, because 10 would be 20 to 22, 20 would be 20 to 24, right? So basically,
It's your real phone again.
oh, what's that?
It's your real phone again. Right?
I know. Farhana cannot believe that I actually have a real phone. I'm like, I got a real phone. Things sit beside me. But anyway, so I go from 20 to 30%. That's actually a 50% increase. I made them 50 grand, not 10. And we're a few hours into the relationship. It's that easy to do. So that would be an example. If I go, like again, so I go to a burger shop, right? We've all been to McDonald's and we order a burger and a Coke, and what do they say? Do you want fries with that? And then I walk into the burger place that doesn't have McDonald's out the front, and I order a burger and a Coke, and nobody asks, do you want fries with that? The question is, why don't they? And the answer is that they do it on Tuesday night. They make an extra, let's call it $100. The problem is that, like, it's $100, it's okay. Oh my God, I can't. The phone hasn't rung in like a year, and now it's rung 3 times. Oh my Lord. Anyway, so what was I saying? What was I saying, Farhana? Help me.
The Coke and
Oh, do you want fries with that? That's it. So they make an extra $100 on Tuesday. Like, it's just not worth reprimanding. It's not worth firing, his own daughter and screaming at somebody and saying, you got to ask, do you want fries with that? But when you take 100 and you multiply it by 365, which is what my software does, it extrapolates and it provides a roadmap for them to follow for the next 12 months, the coach and the coachee. So effectively when you have $36,000 sitting in front of them, suddenly they're significantly more motivated to make a change, right? So basically my software's got 12 key areas you go through. The real problem is not finding 100 grand in 45 minutes. The problem is watering down the numbers so they don't grow too quickly. Because if a guy only make 100 grand last year and I find him 400 grand in like 45 minutes, there can be a little bit of a disconnect to break in rapport, because they're like, well, this just sounds too good to be true. So one of the things we have to do is we have to help our coaches water down the numbers to make sure they don't swell too quickly. But so there's an answer. There's 12 key areas. It's an impressive process, but it's a very straightforward process that works.
So looking at expenses, what do you find that people are, I guess, spending money on that they could consider taking a look at and cutting out?
Yeah, my goodness, the list is endless. Because really, honestly, Farhana, I say it tongue in cheek partly, but not really, is that it's up there with the importance of returning the library book. They have not looked at their credit card statements they've looked at their credit card statements, but they haven't gone through it line by line with a critical eye. It just hasn't happened. Or maybe even a better example is something like accounts receivable, right? Like, what happens on your balance sheet is you've got accounts receivable and it's just a line, and let's say it's got $60,000 or $600,000. Doesn't matter the number. You see, a line item, it's not good enough. What it needs to be done is it needs to be detailed. If it's like $100,000 and there's 10 people that owe me $10,000, I've got to know exactly the name of the company. I need to know exactly the amount. And then I also need to know the age of it. Is it 30, 60, 90 days, 120 days? Like how far out? So now that I know where I've got to go and basically collect that money and do it immediately, because when you start with a business and they have an accounts receivable problem, helping them drive traffic and grow their business is a little bit like being in a boat with a hole in it and going further out into the lake to solve the problem, to fill the hole. Like clearly that would be ridiculous, right? So, it's little places like that. And by the way, if you have $100,000 on your balance sheet on accounts receivable, and let's assume the entire thing is 120 days, in other words, you're not getting your money, you will pay tax on that $100,000. If you don't take it, accept that you're not collecting it and move it into bad debts. But when you don't have a relationship with your accountant where you go back and forth on a regular basis, like at a minimum quarterly, but let's say monthly, you're paying tax that you shouldn't be paying on money that you're never going to collect. And then you'll meet a business owner and they have a cash flow problem, right? They go, you'll hear this all the time, Farhana. I just wrote a book, Accounting 101 for business coaches. I'm not an accountant. I don't pretend to be, but I understand at a pretty high level. If you've got a business they'll say that they're highly profitable, but they say, where's my cash? Like, where's the money? And quite frankly, the accountant doesn't give them the proper answer, which is crazy. And a lot of the time it's in little places like this, like accounts receivable. In fact, there's 5 key areas exactly where it is. But the bottom line is that's a very common problem. And this is a smarter place for a business coach to start, versus going to, Facebook ads and, driving traffic and that sort of stuff. And although we should go there, and I'm not in any way suggesting that somebody shouldn't grow and not move to grow, but they'd be crazy not to, be filling these holes in the boat, I guess, before they go and, drive traffic. So there you go.
So, filling the holes in the boat and really understanding kind of accounts receivable and the whole like accounting process. I know a lot of business owners that sounds super scary, and they probably don't do anything with accounting, and kind of just at the end of the year try to figure it out, do your taxes, and it is what it is. But it's kind of like a system or a small step that people can implement to,
To
sort
get a handle on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it is a journey and again, look, Farhana, I am a sales and marketing guy through and through, right? I grew up in a family with a newspaper, and advertising was where I cut my teeth. So it doesn't come naturally to me either. I would encourage you it's psychology first and foremost, above all else. I'd also come back to that answer I gave you earlier, like the ultimate competitive advantage is the ability to see the entire playing field. Well, the language of business is accounting, so just get your head around it, go on the journey. What tips would I give you? There's really 3 documents that you need to understand. There's a balance sheet, an income statement, otherwise known as a profit loss, and a cash flow statement. Really just got to get your head around those 3 documents, which are not difficult. I want you to see this as math. Replace the word accounting with math. Okay, it's just math, and that's it. Like debits and credits, they spin and confuse most people, including me at one time. Debits and credit, just replace them with plus and minus. That's it. That's all it is, right? But they confuse the hell out of you. And don't think that they don't confuse the hell out of you for a reason. Why do they want to confuse the hell out of you? Because they want to get a hold of your money. Very straightforward. The government and the system. This is the way they do it. They don't want you to go and get educated on tax. Like the number one expense, and you give me a room of 100 people, and I say, what is the number one expense in your life? Write it down. 80% just wrote down mortgage and housing. Okay. The number one expense in your life, my life, everybody listening's life is taxes. And it's not by a little, it's not by a lot, it's by 100 freaking miles. So here's my question for anybody listening. How much time in the last 12 months have you spent studying tax, right? Like, in fact, as I sit here, in fact, I have a book somewhere on my desk, which I can't see it. But anyways, just on tax, like wealth strategies via tax, right? Sitting on my desk. So you're not spending any time. So it's one of those ones, Farhana, where I would encourage everybody to go on the journey, understand that it's not nearly as complicated as what it might appear at this stage. It's just math. I would say that a hack would be learning to understand. I built my entire software platform on percentages. Okay. And I didn't do that by accident. I did that by design because a wealth hack, in fact, I was getting Bryan Kurtz. Some of people listening might know that name. Pretty, impressive guy. We were doing an interview, and I said that, like we were just talking about wealth hacks and whatnot. And I said I believe that a wealth hack is understanding percentages and thinking in percentages. And Brian's a pretty smart guy, and he kind of paused and went, "My gosh, I've never thought about that." Let me give you an example. Like when you've got 30% margins, and then you increase them to 33%, the average person would see a 3% improvement, right? Pretty straightforward, but it's actually a 10% improvement. It's like what I said earlier, when you go from 20 to 30, that is not a 10% improvement, that is a 50% improvement. But your mind, if you're 95% of the population, your mind would never go there. So that's a wealth and an accounting hack right there. What I said about accounts receivable, and another great accounting hack, we'll call it, is accounts payable that nobody talks about, nobody really thinks about. If Apple buys something from you tomorrow, they don't pay you for 91 days. Okay, the question is, why the hell they're the most, if they're not the most cash flush business on the planet, they're pretty damn close. Why wouldn't they pay you for 91 days when you're a little supplier trying to make a living? Well, their logic is that it takes 91 days for them to basically, create the iPhone and put it in somebody's hands and get the cash in their bank account. So they pay you every 91 days. Well, you will meet business owners all the time. What they say is, I don't like debt. I like to pay everybody up front. And again, what do they say? I've got this profitable business, but I've got no cash in my bank account. Well, their accounts receivable, they let, go about 60 days before they collect their money. And then they pay everybody up front. And you end up with this, massive Grand Canyon in the middle, where no wonder you don't have any money, because you're operating your business like, I call it sweetheart syndrome, right? You don't want to collect your money and you want to pay everybody. It's a ridiculous way of going about doing business. So and it's not that you don't pay people. In no way, shape, or form am I saying anything even similar to that. What I am saying is paying everybody up front is not an intelligent decision. Yeah, there's some business models I could describe that would go along that track, but maybe without going down a rabbit hole. Those are some hacks that I would give you in and around accounting. It's a journey that I would encourage everybody listening to go down, and just understand that it's not that complicated. It's math, not accounting.
So other than accounting, what are some more business hacks? I like to hear this.
Yeah, business. Okay, here we go.
Like your top three business hacks.
Yeah, okay, good. So I don't go too far. Well, okay. Sexy. Avoid what's sexy and delusional. What do I mean by that? Facebook ads and whatnot. Like, how many people, again, they have a business problem and they're going to Facebook ads to solve their business problems. That's crazy. If you wonder why people fall into the sexy and delusional stuff, it's the names of the damn books, right? Like the 4-Hour Work Week. If you actually take the time to read the 4-Hour Work Week, it's an excellent book. Everybody should read it, but it's got nothing to do with working 4 hours a week. What it's got to do is, having a great lifestyle and getting, 40 hours of work done in 4 hours, right? So, go with your gut. Gut stands for gave up thinking, right? You don't go with your gut, go with the data, go with the numbers. Your gut in business is, quite often your enemy. So I would say avoid the sexy and delusional stuff. I hate to say this again, but understanding that accounting is the language of business, you really need to, get in there and start with your expenses as opposed to start with revenue generation. Like what most people say, Farhana, is they want, like, I'll meet them and they want to make $1 million. They want a $1 million, $1 million, $1 million. I see it all the time, right? When you really understand business, this is a stupid goal, because I know people that have done $1 million and lost 100 grand. And then I know people that have done $1 million and they made 80, right? Like, how about, and then I know people that have done 500,000 and made $250,000 of profit. Like which is the better business to understand? Like, remember I said earlier, clearly defining the outcome is really what you want to do. But when you declare your outcome to make 100 grand a year or to do $1 million in gross revenues, again, it's not nearly as defined as what it otherwise needs to be. I would just say this: if you've got, once you start to grow your business, you will find often, you're growing your business, and all of a sudden you've got this profitable undertaking, your revenues are growing, but cash isn't rolling up the way it should. So if you've got a client and they say that I've got a profitable business but no cash, you will find with 100% certainty all of the cash, all of the money in five areas. One is their expenses. Two is their revenues. Three is accounts receivable. Four is an inventory. Cost of goods sold. Most people don't understand that there's cost of goods sold and then there's inventory, but cost of goods sold becomes inventory. So they don't, they're not, they can't run at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It's either cost of goods sold and then it moves into inventory. But anyway, so inventory is another place. And then accounts payable. And I went over that a minute ago, but hugely important that people understand that sweetheart syndrome is a real thing. And locking yourself into paying your bills immediately and then not collecting your money is not a great idea. Obviously, as I say it, but I got to tell you, there's a lot of people operating like that. So I'm not sure how many I went through there though, but I would also want to say this is you have to understand, especially if you're marketing online, which I would imagine a lot of people following you are, you've got to create a hook. Most people mistake like marketing for what it really is. And like a hook, like, so when I got started in internet marketing, I plugged hundreds of people into membership sites. My first hook was how I earned $187,000 in my first 9 months online as a coach. Okay, and I put about 10,000 people on a list and put a few hundred or a couple hundred people into a membership site. I then followed that up with, and I did a survey of my audience and what they were looking for. I'm thinking back a number of years, over a decade, but how I generated 250 hot new coaching leads in 90 days using Google. Okay, so that was the second one. And I followed that up and put, again, another couple hundred people into my membership site. And then my hook today, the one that I provide business coaches that work with us, is I'll find any business owner 100 grand in 45 minutes without spending $1 on marketing or advertising. So most people think that their problem is marketing and they're not good at sales and, driving traffic, yada, yada, yada. When you're doing marketing, I would encourage you to start with a hook. And once you establish and get the right hook, which is going to be around the problems. Remember, you're not looking for ideas, you're looking for problems. The way that you'll find your hook is by working out the problems that are existing in a specific market. So I don't know, Farhana, that's what I'd say is, I'm not sure how many I just rattled off, but there's a few hacks and some things that I think business owners are missing it on.
So in your hook, you use numbers in them. So they're, like in every one of those there was some number. Do you suggest that people do add numbers to it?
Yeah. Oh, specific. You need to be, how I earned $187,000 in my first 9 months online as a coach. And then how I generated 250, very specific, 250 hot new coaching leads in 90 days using Google. Yes. And then I'll find you 100 grand in 45 minutes. So there's both a monetary and there's time stamped on all of them. So yeah. That's an example of a pretty good hook. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So monetary value as well as a time period. Those are the two things that people care about: their time and their money.
Well, it makes it finite. It makes it complete, right? Because I can tell you, look, I'm gonna generate you 250 leads on Google, but if I don't timestamp it with X amount of time, do you know what I mean? You see how in your head you're like, yeah, but when, right? So that's like an example. Okay, so I have a hack that again, I write a daily email, and of everything that I get feedback on, and I do a podcast. And I've said this many times and I get a ton of feedback on it, but I've got a Jedi trick that I use for my head. So I had shamelessly stolen from Tony Robbins, by the way, but I'll say to myself, I now command my subconscious mind to direct me to, and then I enter my goal, and then it's got to be starting now. So let's just say I wanted to make $1 million a month. I now command my subconscious mind to direct me to do whatever it takes to make $1 million a month starting now. Okay, so if I leave out the starting now, it doesn't program my subconscious mind at the level that I need it to. The starting now is the magic. So what Tony Robbins would give you another example of that, where he says, what do you say? You go, I want more money. Well, he gives you $5. You just got your goal. It's over, right? You got to be super clear and super finite with what it is you're doing. So yeah, the monetary value and then the time stamping of it. is going to be it's hugely important because it completes it for the person reading or the person hearing it. So yeah, there's a little Jedi mind trick that I do that people might want to, like when I wanted to find a way to find 100 grand in 45 minutes for my business coaches, I now command my subconscious mind to direct me to do whatever it takes to be able to find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising starting now. So
Got it.
a little Jedi trick.
I love that. I'm always manifesting and creating and being like, okay, this is going to happen.
Yeah, there you go. And you're doing great. I'm very impressed by you, Farhana.
Thank you. I deal with parking spots too. I'm like, all right, I envision this parking spot exactly on the street where I want it to be too. It happens a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's it. Put it out there. Don't be shy. And make it, again, if you're going to define the outcome, like, I mean, there's two parts of this. You should make it big and make it a lofty goal that impress the hell out of you if you accomplish it. But at the same time, I think if you're going to do that, you should also have some, clear set, measurable goals that you can accomplish along the way. So I think you should create what Tony Robbins would tell you, and I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. But you need to, if you want to really crush it, you've got to create, a monster vision for yourself. So I think that's super important. But then I also think, you see my little puppy there? See Patty? Yeah. And then you need to have some goals so you can feel good about it, right? Like, there's the NHL playoffs going on right now. Like, I'm a huge hockey guy, right? And it's like people will watch hockey and then they'll celebrate like madmen or mad women, for their team and the championship and for the Stanley Cup or whatever. But then they don't cheer for themselves. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. And they'll cheer game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, game 7, and then the next series. So like there's so to win the Stanley Cup, you got to win, 4 series of 7s. And then you win the cup. Well, they'll cheer every game and, break their heart every loss with their team, but then they don't do it for themselves and their goals. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's a practice that I'm trying to celebrate the wins, even the small wins. Because it's just like, I kind of grew up in this, this is what you're supposed to do. And this is just, what you do. But I think that's there's value in celebrating the wins that happen. And I think that a lot of people don't do that. And so even with my clients, I try to do it more, even if it's a yay.
Yeah. Look, high five. There you go. I agree. We all should. You should. I should. Everybody listening should. So there you go. Cool.
So I have a fun question for you. If you could be a superhero, what would your superpowers be?
Oh, damn. Good question. I love Superman, so I've got to say that I would be Superman because he's my boy. What would my superpower be? It would be to help people get out of their head. If like people, I've got programs and you've got programs, everybody's got programs, and constantly what do you hear? People buy the program and then one person, I got business coaches, I just interviewed one of my coaches. She's been a client for 10 years. For my podcast, and like she's used my program, done very well, does $3 million a year, right? And then people will use my program and not have the success that they were hoping for, in fact, to the point where they have no success at all. And then the question is, like, how does that happen? And it's just the person who doesn't get anywhere is in their head, right? Like this is enemy lines, right? Get out of here, get into your heart. That's where you're going to have the success. So I would say the ability to help people getting out of their own way so that they could go and accomplish what it is that they set out to accomplish. So out of your head, folks, out of your head. That would be my superpower. That's a pretty lame superpower.
No, but think about like how much that could shift the world. So I was on another podcast and I was asked if I could change anything in the world, what would it be?
Yeah.
And I thought about it for a second. I never really, it's like a very beauty queen pageant thing to be asked. And I never really got asked that, or essentially thought it. And what I said was I would help people be able to notice their self-limiting beliefs. And be able, if you could recognize that was and it wasn't real, and it was just a thought, and yes, you can give power to it and make it real, or you could, my mom always said, when you go into your head and and it says something that's not creating possibility, that you just say, okay, thank you for sharing. Now we're going to move on from that.
Oh, I love it. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good job, Mom. I like it. No wonder you're so successful. Damn, Mom. High five for Mom. Good job. Yeah, that's really good. I love it.
Yeah, because there's so, even when I talk to clients or people that want to grow their business and we're doing like a consultation or something, and I'm like, okay, well, all of that is just a story. Like, none of that really is real or matters. Like, just do this. I'm like a jump into the deep end, sink or swim. Like, who cares? Like, if you want something, go after it, go do it. I like it really can't do like the whole excuses thing. So it's interesting trying to pull people out of their excuses and why not, and them into this realm of possibility and like going out there and doing it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. High five. Good job. Good job. Anything else? What do you think?
Well, do you have anything that you want to share? Some last words for our listeners?
Do I have what I want to share? Sorry.
Do you have any last words you want to share with our listeners?
Last things I want to share. No, I want everybody to go out there and become their own success story. You know what I mean? And I think that starts with getting out of your own way. There's so many different ways to do it, and so many hacks out there. It's not that hard. You know what I mean? Like Farhana, I'm sure you would say the same thing. But if you can do it, definitely if I can do it. You know what I mean? I failed grade 8 math. You know what I mean? Freaking miracle. My math. I like to show my grade 8 math teacher my book on accounting. It'd fall over. But no, just get out of your own way, folks, and go create your own success story, because truly it is there for you. Like what you shared a minute ago, just those limiting beliefs. Just everybody's got them. I got them. I'm sure you do, Farhana. I got them all over the place. But you don't let them win, right? Like it's the hockey game. You don't let it win. So
Thank you for sharing that. That's
hey,
it.
what?
All you do is you say thank you for sharing. Then
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh, champion. That's cool. You're welcome. It was awesome. I appreciate you so much. Like I said, I respect your work and what you're doing madly, and
Thank
keep
you.
crushing it. And I hope that I provided some value here today.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone.